Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Breezy Point Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I will call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the January 14th, 2020 minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of those minutes? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passed. Council liaison report. Patrick?
Okay, I'll be happy to give that
Okay.
report. At the meeting, paramedic officer Jason Reiber was given an award for Medal of Commendation that he received for an incident that happened at a local fire, and grateful for his actions. The mayor enjoys that opportunity to give those awards and is grateful that we have the good police officers that we have, and Jason just happens to be a paramedic officer also. Along with that, it was a relatively short meeting. If you recall, it was the night before an election, so we tried to schedule that one light because Deb and I start at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock the following morning, and so, but we did have some other small bidding. We authorized some seal coat awards with the county process there. It's about the smaller area we're going to do with some of the new streets we put in recently. Then the city council did adopt a legislative policy, and you can go online and see any of their comments, but then I guess I'd be willing to answer any questions that the council had.
Any questions of Patrick?
No.
Thank you, Patrick. Open forum number 1. Would anyone like to speak in open forum number 1? If not, I'll close open forum number 1 and move to a public hearing to consider a petition on a rezoning. I will open the public hearing on that petition and ask the applicant if they would come to the microphone and give their presentation.
Now, this is for the Bushman?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, this is,
No. Over this side, or?
no, right there is just fine. If you would,
Anyway, we're Larry and Sandy Bushman, and we're,
Actually, Mr. Bushman, if you want to speak to the planning commission directly.
okay. Anyway, we're Larry and Sandy Bushman, and we lived in this place for 59 years, coming up in November, and it seems like every time you want to get an issue going, somebody says we can't do it. You know? When I bought that place, we could farm, we could do anything I wanted on it, and I don't know who changed it all, but is that the state law? Or if you don't have it in ag, you gotta go to a different category, or what?
well, Jerry, maybe you would like to answer that question.
Sure. I'll just go through my report, actually.
We're all ears.
Okay, the applicant is Larry and Sandra Bushman. The property address is 8750 Bushman Road. The legal is the southeast quarter, the southwest quarter, section 3. Again, the location is 8750 Bushman Road. The current zoning of the property is estate lots. The proposed zoning, or the petition for the rezoning, would be to rezone it to urban reserve. This property is 40 acres in size, and Larry and Sandy previously have split that property into two 20-acre parcels. There's an east parcel and a west parcel. Prior to 2015, that property was designated as urban reserve, or RUA in our old zoning. The reason that it changed in 2015 is that the 2010 comprehensive plan that the city council adopted in 2010 projected that piece of property along with some others to be estate lots. The Bushmans have a potential buyer for this, for the east 20 acres. And the potential buyer, who is also here, it has indicated a need to have animals. The only place in our zoning ordinance that allows for animals of any kind, other than chickens, is the urban reserve district. Thus, the petition to rezone back to a rural residential zoning. To
Is
answer
there a
this,
limitation on the animals you can have? I mean, 3 or 4 this? Okay. I'll shut up. It's hard though.
actually, prior to 2016 also, there were other places where you could have animals, but the city council changed that and eliminated animals in any residentially zoned district. So again, the only place you can have animals is there in the urban reserve. There is a definition for animal husbandry in our zoning ordinance, and it does prescribe the maximum amount of animals that you can have per 5 acres. If the rezoning were to be granted and the sale were to transpire, the new owners would have to apply to the planning commission for an interim use permit to have animal husbandry, which is another process that they would have to go through.
For both of the parcels, Jerry, or just for what we're...
You want to wait, Mr. Bushman, and let Jerry make his presentation, and you want to actually present and ask all your questions to the planning commission board.
Basically, the rezoning is critical to the sale for Mr. Bushman, is my understanding. Again, if the rezoning is granted, the applicant would have to come in front of you again and request an interim use permit for a specific number of animals or a maximum number of animals that could be done on that specific parcel. Because there are 2 parcels, it would be for the east parcel or the west parcel. Mr. Bushman, at the same time, if the rezoning were granted, could also petition for an interim use permit to do that. The problem with that is if you don't use that interim use permit within a year, then it goes away.
Oh, okay.
With that, I'll conclude and I'll let Mr. Bushman ask some questions.
Please, Mr. Bushman, go ahead with your presentation.
Well, like I said, I don't know, I'm gonna ever probably have an animal there other than a cat, but it would be nice to know if I could have some chickens, or we used to have beef cattle there, or we used to have hogs and almost everything, you know. We used to butcher out 100 chickens for fryers. I'd still like to have the crews that happen to do that, you know. And my people that are interested in it, they don't have a lot of stock, but they just want 4-H stuff for their daughter, if I understood right. And maybe a horse and a llama or a sheep is what they got now. I don't know how much they're going to increase the herd, but I don't think much more than 1 or 2, if I'm right.
Right. So this is the mouse.
And could I put row crops in my property then? Can I farm it? Can I put in beans or can I put in corn? I always used to do that a lot. I had the whole thing in soybeans several times and corn. And
Could you respond to that, Jerry?
The agricultural use is a permitted use in any of those zones, and they can be, you could farm it for corn, beans.
anything, but no, you're talking
It's specifically
livestock.
animals.
Okay, gotcha. Good. Other than that, I guess I don't have much more to ask you, but
Okay.
hopefully you'll do it our way anyway, you know? Thank you.
We might have a couple of questions
You bet.
a little later.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any public input to this petition? Yes, sir. Please tell us who you are and where you live.
Tim Horvath. I live on Harvest Road, 31859 Harvest Road. We're the interested party in Larry's property. This has been going on for quite a while between us, and we finally had a meeting of minds on price and various other things, and then ran into the roadblock with the animals. The animals are important to us. It's Julie's hobby, and also her daughter is heavily involved in 4-H, and it's the direction we want to go. We also want to do large gardens. She's an organic gardener, and that sort of thing. But the roadblock between Larry and I, the only roadblock, is whether or not we can have animals. And as it stands right now, you know, she's committed to these animals. If I said the animals have to go, I go. So, you know, it's a very, very important part of wanting to do this. And the other thing that I know I said in the last meeting I attended is it's the most prominent corner in Breezy Point. You know, I can say turn right at the first exit with a turn lane. People go, what? I'll say by the Red Barn. Yep, I know where you're going. And I'd hate to see that diminish. Our desire for the property is to actually move our homestead there, put an outbuilding on. We're not talking a farm. We're not talking a money-making type operation. It is strictly a hobby farm is what we want to do. And as far as the number of animals, I don't foresee any more than 4 large stock type animals, probably a pair of horses, a pair of llamas. If I have my way, no goats. But again, that's our desires for the property. And we want to keep the property as it sits and maintain that look and be able to garden and do the things we like to do. But it is a make or break deal for Larry and I and Julie and Sandy, whether or not we can do the animal husbandry, with the understanding that it does need to be monitored, with the understanding we need an interim use permit. You know, I understand that you have to protect the other residents of the city, and it's not like we're going to have 30 head of sheep out there and somebody's going to be coming into the council saying, oh my God, it smells in July. That's not the direction we want to take. And I do understand the need to monitor that and be on top of it and don't have an issue with that. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Steve Morrison. I have adjoining property to the Bushmans. I see it their way with needing to do something different with their zoning on that situation. As a builder, I look at this property being zoned for residential in the city of Breezy as being, you know, it's wishful thinking that it's going to be built on. There's still a lot of vacant lots in Breezy. This area here, if you were to take either of the 20-acre parcels and you turn it into building lots, is not exactly going to be a hotbed for building, given that most of it's in the field, is on the side of a highway. I would think that putting it to use with somebody that could use it for a little bit of a hobby farm would be a better use for the property. And also, perhaps I'll put in a few crops in there that would be good for the wildlife, the deer and whatnot, rather than just hayfield. So as a matter of leaving it for residential, I can tell you that the idea of that being built on in any great amount in the next 10, 15 years is pretty much zero anyways. So that's all I have to say about it. I think zoning it back to urban reserve or something like in that manner would probably be a lot better use for the community than to just leave it sit there. And, as an investment for building, if somebody were to buy those 20-acre parcels in Breezy, especially with building permit costs, and just the fact that there's a lot of other nature lots on there, it's going to sit there forever that way. And it's really not fair to pay taxes on something zoned residential that is not really viable for, you know, the market for residential right now. In the future, if it was a lot you know, more crowded and breezy than it is, then, you know, maybe that. But now, no, you're just punishing somebody with higher taxes on a piece of property that's never gonna be used for those purposes, so. That's all I have to say for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yes, I'm Marvin Hanson. I live right on the west side of that property. And I have absolutely no objection to that being changed. It's like the last fellow was saying, that that's about the only thing that property is good for. It's pretty much all sand and a few weeds and grass go around, so I think it would be a good thing to get it changed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I will close the public hearing and move to our next agenda item, which is taking official action on this zoning petition. Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I would move that we approve the request.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Well, I have a condition. I have a condition.
Okay.
The Bushmans have to start growing the sweet corn. They used to grow it 4 years ago, because that was the best sweet corn in the county.
The best sweet corn in the country.
Oh, I said county. Sorry about that.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second, discussion. Roger.
The other thing I have, Jerry, will this, you know, we're changing this to urban. Will this open up a can of worms for other pieces of property? Potentially, because we're rezoning, right? That's my only question. Potentially.
Will it open it up for some, the option to change the zoning is always there for anybody that wants to petition to do it.
That's a good way to put it.
So it's still open anyway after.
It's very possible that someday down the line, it's going to change back to the estate lots.
Yeah.
If and when the use changes, or there's new property
Right.
owners or whatever, or development happens around it, and just a demand for development causes that to change. But that will come in front of you again
Yeah, okay.
at that time.
Could that be grandfathered? It's not allowed.
We have to hold questions at this point because the public input has ended, so I'm sorry about that. This is a discussion of the planning commission at this point. Your question answered?
Yeah.
Roger? Okay.
I have
Marcy?
a question. So there is a number of animals per acreage that is on the books. Has that been reviewed by the applicants to ensure that that meets their need for a number of animals?
Jerry?
There's a maximum amount that's set out in the ordinance per 5 acres. They won't be able to go over that number. They can certainly have less than that number, but they will not be able to go over that number. And that will be part of any interim use permit that is approved sometime down the line, if there is one. So you still have some control over that number, but there is a maximum that's set out in the zoning ordinance.
And in this case, that would limit to 4 animals, correct?
Pardon?
It would limit to 4 animals for that,
5 acres.
for that 20-acre.
So you were saying you could have
I remember seeing a chart.
animals with 4 acres?
This might be the proverbial cart before the horse, though.
Yeah.
Correct,
Because really the discussion for tonight is the zoning.
right.
And then Jerry and the applicant can work on any future applications in the future.
Marcy's question, however, was, is the applicant aware of this?
I have gone through this with the prospective owner.
Okay.
You can have a lot of animals.
Mark,
I have nothing further.
Tracy?
A comment. This land has been there like this for years and years and years. My perception is there are a lot of already plotted lots that are available in areas where the comprehensive plan would like people to develop. I don't think this is gonna conflict with that. I think it's a use that fits the land, as the one gentleman said, you know, it's not attractive tree-covered lots in the woods, which we seek in Breezy Point. So I'm supportive of this request.
Any other discussion?
No.
If not, I'll call the motion to question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Gary?
This is a recommendation that will go to the city council.
Thank you.
At their next meeting, the first meeting in April, the first Monday in April.
When's the corn gonna be ready?
About the 15th of August, the 15th and the 20th, if I got enough ambition to plant. I'm getting older every year I stand.
Oh, that doesn't happen.
But that's
Hey.
the bargaining.
Nothing.
Everybody.
Call the
when's
meeting
that
to order.
and so-
Thank you. Move to open forum number 2.
May I ask one quick question, please?
Yes, sir.
So my understanding.
Please come to the microphone. Thank you.
Tim Horvath. So my understanding is you've approved to move this forward to the council, and we still have to have this approved by the council.
Correct.
All right, that's what I wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak during open forum number 2? If not, I'll close open forum number 2. Other items on the agenda, and before I ask that question, there are a couple of things that I'd like to do under other. One is to thank Tracy, and I'm not sure that we've done this, Tracy. Thank you for all of your time and effort as a liaison to the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't do much.
Well,
They did a lot.
you did, and you spent a lot of time doing it, so we appreciate it. The other is I would like to thank on our behalf Larry Neer and Peggy Schmidt for all of their years of service on the Planning and Zoning Commission. They were certainly the veterans on this committee and will be missed.
I agree.
Anything else
Do you
that,
need a motion to thank them officially, or?
it'd be nice.
I move that we officially thank them. I don't know, or is there a certificate of something that we can give them each, thanking them for their service?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passed. That's it for this evening then. Thank you very much for coming.
That's a short one you guys got.